What we are going to discuss today is taking or extracting the square root of numbers. So the term that we should understand here is the word square root. When we are to extract the square root of numbers, this actually means that we are looking for a number that once we raise it to the second power, or when we square it, it will give you the number. Like in the first example, you have the square root of 25. So ask yourself now, what is that number that once multiplied by itself will give you a product of 25? Okay, so 5 is the answer. So this simply means that the square root of 25 is simply 5. Usually, we can also consider the negative. Okay, once you have a negative 5 and that is raised to the second power, that is also giving us an answer which is 25, which means that you can either have positive or a negative 5, and that is now the square root of 25. What about the 400? So 400 will give us an answer which is 20, correct? So 20 multiplied by itself is equivalent to 400. 20 times 20, and so with your negative 20. So negative 20 multiplied by negative 20 is also equivalent to 400. So that means that the square root of 400 is either positive or negative 20. Now, what if you have a fraction, like in our example, third example, that we have square root of 81 all over the square root of 121. So this is an example wherein we are expected to have also an answer which is in fraction. We can take the square root of the numerator first and then the denominator. So the square root of 81, so what is that number that once multiplied by itself gives a product of 81? So that is equivalent to 9 or negative 9. So negative 9 multiplied by negative 9 is equivalent to 81. So the square root of 81 is 9. And what about the 121? It's 11. So 11 times 11 is 121. So it is very much advisable for you to memorize at least until the square of 20. So 9 over 11 is the square root of 81 over the square root of 121. Now the problem is, if you are given a certain problem like this, 8,281. So it's not advisable for us to memorize all the squares of numbers. So these are actually easy to memorize, because when you have 1 raised to the second power or negative 1 raised to the second power, that is equivalent to simply 1. And also when you have 2, that is 2 to the second power, that will give us a 4. And then 3 raised to the second power, it's equivalent to 9. 4 raised to the second power, that is 4 times 4, we have 16. Now taking 5 to the second power, that is of course 5 times 5, we have an answer which is 25. And then 6 raised to the second power, that is equivalent to 36. Again, I am no longer getting the negative, but you can actually have there a negative 6 also. So negative 6 quantity squared. Now 7 raised to the second power, we have 49. And 8 raised to the second power, the same as 8 times 8, we have 64. And 9 raised to the second power, that is equivalent to 81. And 10 raised to the second power. That is, of course, 100. So it is advisable for us to memorize this term so that, or this number, so that if you have a simple problem like this with the square root of numbers, square root of 25, we just simply have 5 as the result. Now, we cannot memorize all these numbers. So there must be a certain solution that we can follow so that even if we do not know the square root of the number, we can actually solve. So in this case, you are given, or we are given, the square root of 8,281. So this is now the term or the number that we are trying to extract. Again, the idea here is we are looking for the same number that once squared or multiplied by itself, we are getting this product, which is 8,281. Now, we have to identify first the rule. So the first thing that we have to remember once you are extracting the square root of large number is to group by 2's from the decimal point. Again, you group by 2's from the decimal point. The question is, in this example, you have 8,281. There is no decimal point, but we know that if it is a whole number, the decimal point is at the end. Okay, that is located at the end. So which means, or this simply means that this will be divided into 2 groups. So 81 will be one group and 82 will be another group. Okay, now what's the significance of this? This simply means that we are expecting to have a 2-digit number. So the number of groups will be the number of decimal places in the answer. So after doing the grouping, the next step is to consider only the first group. So in this case, it's 82. So 82, we are going to look for a perfect square which is nearest 82, okay, but it should be lower than 82. Okay, so we know that 82 is found between the perfect squares 81 and 100. But consider 81 this time because this is the number which is smaller than the 82. We cannot get this. Okay, so this simply means that we are going to get the approximate square root of your 82, and the answer that we are getting there is 9. And that is the first answer that you have there. And the square of that will be written below the number. Okay, the 82. And after that, we go now to subtraction. So there is actually a similarity with the rules in division. Okay, so we have 82 minus 81. This will give us a difference, okay, which is the answer in subtraction. So 2 minus 1 is 1. 8 minus 8 is 0, so we may not write that. And then after that, we are going to bring down. So in division, we just bring down one digit. But here, since we are considering them as pairs, 8 and 1 will go together. So 81. So the number that we are working with now is 181. Now the next step that we have to remember here is you have to look for a number that can divide 181. So there is a constant number that we are using once you are looking for the proper divisor. What is that constant number? It is 20. So next step is we get the answer that we have a while ago. That is 9. And we are going to multiply that with the constant 20. Now, you might ask, is it always 20? Yes. Is it always 9? No. It depends on the number that is written here. Okay, so 9 times 20, it's equivalent to 180. This will serve now as our partial divisor. Okay, so we now divide 181 by 180. So we know that there is one group of 180 in 181. But we don't stop there. We are going to add 1 to it. And then after that, this will now become 181. Okay, and 181 will now become the real divisor. So 181 divided by 181, the answer is 1. And 1 times 181 is also 181. So we are going to write that below the 181 and subtracting now 181 and 181, the answer that we are getting is 0. So our given 8,281 is also a perfect square, which means that 91 times 91 is 8,209 or 281. So our answer here is positive negative 91. Now, if you want to prove that this is correct, you can have 91 multiplied by itself. So 91 times 91, we can make use of our multiplication algorithm. So distribute 1 and then 9. And then you can also have 9 there plus the 9 times 9, which is 81. So if we are going to add this, we have 1. And this one is 18. And then you have to regroup 1. And that is equivalent to 2. And we are getting 8. Bring down 8. So again, the answer that we have is the 8,281 or 8,281. That's how you extract the square root of numbers with more than 3 or 4 digits, and if you could not do it mentally. Okay, what about the 729? So the same again, we just have to write the square root of 729. Okay, the first rule is group by 2's. Again, group by 2's from the decimal point. There is no decimal point, so we just have to write a decimal point at the end because there is no existing decimal point. So in this case, 729, group by 2's from the decimal point, 29. 2 and 9 will be together, while 7 will be on its own. Okay, we only have a single digit here. So 7, one group, 29, another group. Okay, so like in the first example here, we are going to look for a perfect square which is nearest 7, but it should be smaller than your 7. So it's advisable that you have to memorize the square of these numbers. So in this case, we are getting 4. Okay, we cannot get 9 because of the reason that 9 is higher than the 7. So it will be 4, but the square root of 4 is 2. So 2 will be the number that will be written directly on top, while the 4 will be the number that you have to subtract from 7. So 7 minus 4, that is now equal to, okay, we subtract this, and this is equal to 3. And then again, when you bring down, you have to bring down them both. So 29. We have now a number which is 29. Okay, now we have to get for the partial divisor. We have 329 this time. You have to divide it by what number? So we do not know yet the number that we are going to divide. So we have to get the 2. So a while ago it was 9 that was multiplied by 20. This time it will be 2. So we will get 2, multiply that by the constant 20, and we are getting 40. So this simply means that we are going to have now your 40 as your partial divisor. So dividing 329 by 40, the answer that you will be getting there is 8. Okay? So, if you are going to do 8, so you can try it by 8 first, because that's the answer that we are getting. But take note that if I have 40 plus 8, the number that we are getting here is 48. Correct? There is a need for us to multiply this by 8, right? Because if I will assume now that the answer here is 8, this simply means that in finding for the number that I will subtract from the 329, it will become the product of 8 and the 48 here. Okay, so if you are going to find out the product, 8 times 8, that is equal to 64. You have to regroup 6 there. So 32 plus the 6, that is equivalent to 32 plus 6 is 38. So it's far higher than the 329. Okay, what does this suggest? There is a need for us to get now a lower answer. So instead of a 7, we will have to change that. Again, if you are getting for the partial cosh or divisor, you are dividing the 329 here by 40. But we cannot simply have the 8 because after dividing, you need to add, and whatever the result, that is the multiplier that we are getting. So therefore, there is an adjustment that should be done. So we cannot have 8. So the answer or the number that we are getting is, we go lower than 8, so 7. So we will now add 7, and that is equivalent to 47. So if you assume that it will be 7, it will be the same number that you will write there. So 7 multiplied by 20 or by 47 this time. 7 times 7, that is 49. And 7 times 4 is 28 plus the 4 is equal to 300 or 32. So we are getting now the number. So 329, and when you subtract that from 329, again we are getting a 0. So we found out the answer for the square root of 729, and that is 27, or we can also consider negative 27. So positive, negative 27. If you want to prove it, you just get to multiply 27 multiplied by 27. Okay, so 49. Then you have here the 4. Oh, this will become 14 plus the 4 is 18. And then 2 times 27 is 54. And getting the sum of this partial products, we have 9. And 8 and 4 is 12. We regroup 1 and 5. That is 729. So that is the number that we just extracted. Therefore, we have the square root of 729 as equal to positive negative 27.